Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Former WBO champion Rhiannon Dixon says, I want to be a two-weight world champion. I've been wondering what she was going to do and where she was going to go on the heels of her first professional loss to Terry Harper, and now we have those answers. Rhiannon Dixon says, I want to be a two-weight world champion. It was a painful night in September for Rhiannon Dixon, an unbeaten world champion with real momentum and a seemingly mapped-out future. Terry Harper was the first defense of her WBO lightweight title, a fighter that was vastly more experienced than the former white-collar fighter, but also one that was perceived to be on an irreversible slide. One last throw of the dice for the two-weight world champion, now three, but also a gamble for the reigning champion. A gamble for Dixon. A case of who was catching who at the right time. At the Cannon Medical Arena in Sheffield, we found the answers that we needed. It was Harper who used her greater experience to outpoint Dixon over 10 hard rounds. The Denabi fighter left the ring a three-weight world champion. Dixon left that same Sheffield ring contemplating many things. A period of reflection followed for the Warrington fighter, but nearly 4 months on from her first professional loss, a new beginning is ahead of her. I think it's opened up more options for me, Dixon told me over Zoom. I also think it will make me a better fighter in the long run. I think I've been set on just going one way. If I had won the fight with Terry, I would then have gone in with either Caroline Dubois or Beatrice Ferreira. Despite the reversal against Harper in September, Dixon was far from disgraced. There was even a big moment in the 6th round where Harper was noticeably hurt and appeared to be unraveling, but Dixon couldn't find the finishing punch, and Harper recovered to make sure of the decision. With a strong finish that might have just saved her career, at least momentarily. Dixon is reflective and honest about the fight. It's probably the experience that I needed, having just those 7 white-collar fights and just 10 professional fights, and then going in with a two-weight world champion. It's changed everything and has made me just want it more. I don't think I fully appreciated winning the world title in April. I think I was more down on myself, thinking I could have done this or that. Rhiannon didn't get off to a bad start in the Terry Harper fight. It's just that as the fight progressed, things got repetitive. For Rhiannon, they did. Terry Harper found her way back in the fight, and her experience carried her through it. I need to enjoy and appreciate my achievements a little more. When I won the world title, I wasn't even happy with that because of how I fought. I didn't even celebrate the fact that I came from white collar and became a world champion, but it was a fight that I went into genuinely believing I would win. It was just me severely underperforming. I never felt out of my depth. It was me. I have never boxed as shit as that before. We ignored everything that I did well. What's white collar? It's the chicken gizzard circuit in the UK, a semi-pro circuit. Rhiannon continued, I went in there trying to change my whole style, and when it wasn't working, I didn't have the experience to change. I didn't adapt, and that's a lesson I learned. After the fight with Terry, I was questioning myself. I put everything into camp, and I was thinking, what had gone wrong here? It was just what happened on the night, and I have come to terms with that. We sat down as a team and looked at what went wrong and how to make sure it wouldn't happen again. The defeat to Harper has left Dixon making new plans. It's given her an opportunity to refine her craft and look at her options outside of the lightweight division. Maybe I just stayed at lightweight because it was comfortable for me. Dixon relayed to Fight Post. I started winning titles at lightweight, and that was the trajectory I started to go on. I have been kind of winging it in some ways. Even before I won the Commonwealth title, my manager Paul Reddy said to me that if things opened up at super featherweight, would you be willing to do it? I have just been making lightweight easier and easier. Dixon will return in March, and at her new weight, a move to super featherweight that could place her in direct line for a fight with Alicia Baumgartner.
She's still undisputed.
But far more likely, she could be in a prime position if, as expected, Baumgartner vacates her title seeking new pastures. I am really excited to see how I feel, Dixon says of her challenge. I want to be a two-weight world champion. I want to enjoy it as well. I've put a lot of pressure on myself before because I thought I had to hit a certain standard. When I look back on my career, I don't want to think that it was really sad.
A sad time.
And think, why did I put so much pressure on myself? I want to get back to enjoying boxing again. Rhiannon Dixon will look to put the Harper disappointment well and truly behind her this year. In many ways, a new stage of her career begins in March. The lightweight door hasn't been totally closed. Thoughts of revenge will never leave Dixon. A rematch with Harper will never be far from her mind. The right offer could also tempt Dixon into that much-talked-about all-British showdown with Caroline Dubois. But you sense Dixon could also be a real player at 130. If Baumgartner does move on and up, the world super featherweight titles will undoubtedly splinter. It's not that hard to envisage Dixon fighting for and winning one of those titles. I agree.
You know, it never even dawned on me that Rhiannon might move down to super feather.
Because Alicia ain't got no reason to keep fighting there. There are no big fights for Alicia at super feather, where she's reigned as undisputed champion for some time now, but that could change very soon. And when it does, the titles will be redistributed. Rhiannon can pick up one of those belts, especially in this current landscape.
Delphine Pursoon is ranked at number 1 with 3 of the 4 alphabet organizations, but Delphine is getting on in age. I don't think she's going to be in the sport much longer.
Rhiannon Dixon could come up against France's own Rima Ayadi, Elham Mekhaled, or South Korea's Bomi Raishin.
Korea.
These are comparatively much more winnable fights than, say, a Beatrice Ferreira fight at lightweight or a Caroline Dubois fight at lightweight.
Yeah, I like Rhiannon. I've been a fan of her for a long time, but she don't win those fights.
Not right now. It's a wonder that she's made it as far as she has, becoming a world champion, albeit for a short while, because she has no amateur background. She's a natural, naturally gifted, but still needs more bells and whistles, more experience, and she can get that in the super featherweight division. It's a good idea.
Dixon.
That being said, Rhiannon Dixon stands a legitimate chance of seeing herself become a two-weight world champion inside of the next 12 months. She's got to fight the right fights.
But I still believe in this fighter, and I believe she can do it.
And I won't begrudge her for needing more experience, that perhaps she fought for a world title far too soon. But she is the goods, and she's going to do it.
Look for the ring return of Rhiannon Dixon in March.
He said it's easy. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Price is low.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He just told me that it's easy work. I'm gonna beat
0311.
beat Devin again. So that's what he
And what
said.
does Turkey tell you? Because you had a picture the next day you put out.
Turkey is hilarious, man. That dude is a character, and he wanted me to beat up Haney. You know, he wants me to beat up Haney.
You got the key?
And he just wants me to do a bunch of things. He wants to blow this all up. He has a lot of amazing ideas, and it's really cool working with him.
And so Canelo Alvarez is under the impression that a Devin Haney rematch will be easy work for Ryan Garcia, and we'll see if it is. Ryan himself has already communicated that he views the guy he's about to fight, Isaac Cruz, as a tougher fight, a tougher customer than Devin Haney. To make it to Devin, he's got to make it past Isaac. Isaac, who's set to return to action early next month against Angel Fierro on the undercard of Benavidez versus Morrell, then presumably go right back into camp for Ryan Garcia in May.
It's a quick turnaround.
Barring illness, injury, or unforeseen circumstances, it's a quick turnaround, but it also has its virtues that Isaac, unlike Ryan, won't have any ring rust to shake off, having already seen action a few weeks prior. Salvador Rodriguez of ESPN, otherwise known as Chava, says talks continue to negotiate the fight. There is no economic agreement yet, and a catch weight is possible at 144 pounds. Questions as to how little Isaac is going to carry that weight because he doesn't have a welterweight's physical dimensions, a welterweight's frame.
He doesn't have a super lightweight's frame.
He only became a champion at 140 pounds, boxing another 135-pounder who moved up like himself in Rolly Romero, and his first defense was against that same kind of guy, Rayo Valenzuela. Rayo was no more a bona fide 140 than Isaac was.
So at 144, which is welterweight, anything above and in between 140 and 147 is welter.
So how will Isaac carry the added weight? Because what makes him a handful is being explosive and persistent, but with the added weight, will that slow him down?
It might.
And what about Ryan? Ryan Garcia, who the night of will not have boxed in a year's time. He's going to have ring rust to shake off. The noticeably taller, longer fighter of the two that will have to time Isaac's entry to land that big left hook, that counter left hook. It's going to be harder to do that with his timing being off and Isaac being so small.
He's a very small target who hunkers down, bending his waist and knees, looking to bring over looping punches. Ryan doesn't have the best defense.
Isaac's not scared to take one to give one, the way pressure fighters often do.
So you Pitbull in New York, Times Square,
Yeah,
right?
Times Square, yes.
Nice, man. What, I guess curious, how does the fight go in your opinion? I know you guys have been circling each other for a long time now, right?
Yeah, me and Pitbull, we were supposed to fight many occasions, but never went down.
Was in April of 2022, after Isaac's glorified loss to Gervonta Davis, that Oscar De La Hoya offered Isaac a cool $1 million to box Ryan Garcia in a main event. Isaac's team turned it down.
Didn't seem like a wise decision at the time, since all he'd been boxing on were undercards and undercard fights ever since. He didn't move on to headline his own shows.
As luck would have it, that fight has come back around, likely for more money. That I do think Isaac stands to make more than just $1 million boxing Ryan now.
Yeah, but he's got to make it past Angel Fierro first.
But, yeah, I mean, this is a fight that I feel like the fans wanted for a long time until he lost. So I don't think it should make no difference. He's still an explosive fighter. Rayo boxed a great fight, so you can't really take anything away from him either. This should be a great fight still.
What happens if he doesn't win this fight? Does it like take it out of play, or he's still gonna fight you regardless?
I mean, we should find a replacement if he doesn't win, but I'm sure he will. I mean, I think this is a touch-him-up fight.
Ryan seems confident that Isaac will make it past Angel Fierro. We'll see if he does. If he doesn't, I agree. I'm sure Turkey's got a plan B, the event coordinators, someone else in mind, that Ryan can box on that show if things don't work out with Isaac.
If they don't, that's a huge missed opportunity for Isaac.
That you could have fought this guy 2 times and likely made more money than you made boxing Gervonta Davis. Oh yeah, I don't think Isaac made $1 million from the Davis fight. Not as a late replacement. Nobody knew him.
He only likely got a few $100,000, not $1 million.
Cool $1 million like what Oscar offered him in 2022, and God only knows what Turkey's offering him now to take that fight with Ryan now.
We've seen Ryan in a fight like this before. The Oscar Duarte fight.
Oscar Duarte, like Isaac Cruz, is a mid-range to inside pressure fighter. Very aggressive customer.
Ryan knocked him out. He knocked him out eventually, but stunk out the joint for most of that fight.
Turning all the way around, turning completely around, and being allowed to do so by the ref.
You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to give your back to your opponent, but that's what he would do whenever the pressure was on.
Might try that with Isaac, except this time, it's not a Golden Boy promotion show. It's a Turkey El Al Sheikh show. Oscar ain't the one in charge. Will Ryan be able to get away with that if that's what he resorts to whenever he's under pressure?
Well, the referee let him do it.
And so the added weight may slow Isaac Cruz down, but at the same time, all that time off may affect Ryan's timing. To time that left hook and land it.
Very intriguing indeed. But I do like the fight.
We'll see if Isaac Cruz can make it there. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, another look at the Fundora versus Spence fight's collapse From the Errol Spence Jr. side of things. In an interview with Boxing Scene's Tris Dixon back in June, Spence laid bare the struggles he has endured from both the Crawford loss and a harrowing crash of his Ferrari in 2019. I definitely worry about brain trauma, have checkups all the time and always get scans and all type of stuff to make sure I'm on point, Spence said. Not too many people go high speed in a Ferrari and get thrown, land on solid concrete, and still be here to talk today, still survive, still be coherent. That was traumatic and a brutal experience that I went through. It was definitely serious. I'm trying to give y'all the best me, he wrote, followed by boxing is so messed up.
A Twitter user that goes by the name Boxing Mind TV said, "We want to see you back in the ring, champ," to Errol Spence, to which Errol responded, "I'll be back when I'm ready."
Because after a year and 5 months, you're still not? Saying that you'll be back when you're ready implies that somebody's rushing you to come back when clearly you're in no rush. You had over a year's time to hire a new trainer to replace Derek James. Anytime in between there, you could have scheduled a tune-up fight with somebody.
He didn't.
If it were about the PBC not having the resources at this time to get him back out there in a timely fashion and help rebuild him, I'm sure that some other promoter would have been happy to have him, like, say, a Matchroom. For example, I'm sure they would have been happy to have him for a 3-fight deal, 2 tune-ups, then 1 major one. The crux of it is that if Errol's not back yet, it's because he doesn't want to be. Because if that's what he wanted, there are ample avenues out there to peruse, to pursue. And at 34, going on 35 years old, coming up on his mid-30s, this is usually when a boxer's career starts to wind down. So when I see a Boxing Mind TV urging Errol on, urging him to come back, I can only think to myself, this guy must be dumb or delusional.
Do you watch boxing?
Because this is not a fairy tale, and in a very general sense, there are few fairy tale endings in the sport of boxing. Oftentimes, it's boxing that retires the fighter, not the fighter retiring from boxing. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Errol should have had this fight in either 2018 or 2019. I still think he would have lost, but it might not have been as bad, and he could have used Danny Garcia as a rebound fight, Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, Ugas. The fighters he used as alternatives to Crawford could have been the building blocks to rebuild himself after Crawford beats him, because I always thought Crawford would beat him. 2018, 2019, or 2023. Crawford was always going to win that fight.
But the way Errol played it, he exhausted all of his alternatives, all of his options before facing Crawford, so that after he faces him, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. You come back now, you can't make 147 anymore, but 154.
It's not safe for you. 154 ain't for the faint of heart. Sergey Bohachuk, Israel Madrimov, Virgil Ortiz, Sebastian Fundora, who you just pulled out on, Bakram Murtazaliev.
They would all descend upon you. They would all go after you.
I don't think Errol wins any of those fights, least of all now that he's so far removed from the sport. If he would have fought Sebastian, I think Sebastian was going to beat him.
Real bad.
He said he'll be back when he's ready. And when is that going to be? If you're not ready yet, after all this time, maybe it's because you're never going to be ready. Maybe you're done.